Have you ever felt like you're completely out of options? Like, the bills are stacked, you have no idea what's next, and everything you have left feels totally useless. We've all been there, running on empty. Well, get this. During a huge famine, a widow was down to a handful of flour and a little oil. She was literally about to make one last meal for her and her son, and then die, until a prophet shows up and makes the craziest request you've ever heard. This is the insane story of how one small act of trust unlocked a miracle that never stopped. The entire land of Israel was choking. The sky was basically a giant copper shield, and for 3.5 years, not a single drop of rain had fallen. This wasn't just bad weather, it was a showdown. The prophet Elijah had called for this drought to prove a point to the evil King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, who had everyone worshiping a fake god named Baal. They thought Baal controlled the rain, so God, through Elijah, shut off the sky to show who was really in charge. Elijah was now public enemy number one, hiding out and being fed by ravens. But then the stream he was drinking from dried up, and God gave him a new, and honestly, a bizarre, mission. He told him, "Go to Zarephath. I've arranged for a widow there to feed you." Zarephath wasn't just some random town. It was in Sidon, the homeland of Queen Jezebel herself. This was the heart of enemy territory, the headquarters of Baal worship. And who was going to help him? Not some rich guy, but a widow. In that time, widows were the most vulnerable people, basically living on the edge of starvation. This was God's plan. It made zero sense, and that was the point. He was about to show that his power works anywhere, isn't stopped by politics, and that he shows up for the most unlikely people in the most unlikely places. Elijah follows God's command and walks almost 100 miles to this foreign town. As he gets to the town gate, he sees a woman, just like God said he would. But she doesn't look like she's ready to host anybody. She looks like she's given up. She's slowly picking up a couple of sticks. This was the woman God sent him to. Elijah calls out with a simple request. "Can you bring me a little water?" Even in her state, hospitality was a big deal, so she starts to go. But as she's walking away, he calls out again, this time with a request that is just unbelievable. He says,
"And also please bring me a piece of bread."
Those words just shattered her. With all the exhaustion of a mother watching her own son starve, she gave him the brutal truth. "As surely as your God lives," she said. Notice she calls him your God, not her God. "I don't have any bread. All I have is a handful of flour in a jar and a little bit of olive oil in a jug." She holds up the sticks she was gathering. "I'm gathering these to go home and make one last meal for me and my son. We're going to eat it, and then we're going to die." Can you feel how heavy that is? She wasn't just being dramatic. This was her reality. She had calculated the exact end of her life. One final meal, and then it's over. And into this pit of total hopelessness, this prophet just asked her to give away her family's last bite of food. The battle in her mind must have been raging. Here's a man of God asking for the one thing she absolutely could not give. It was a test of faith she didn't even ask for. Elijah looked at this woman, and instead of judging her, he gave her an incredible reassurance. He started with two of the most powerful words you can hear. Don't be afraid. He met her right in the middle of her terror and offered her a promise. He told her, "Go home and do what you said you were going to do. But first, make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have. Bring it to me, and then make something for yourself and your son." The instruction was clear. Put God first. It sounds completely backward. Why should this stranger get to eat when her own kid was about to starve? To answer that question before she could even ask it, Elijah delivered a promise straight from God. He declared, "For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. The jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land." She had every reason to laugh in his face or tell him to get lost. But she didn't. In a mind-blowing moment of pure faith, she chose to believe the promise. The Bible just says, she went away and did as Elijah had told her. Imagine how quiet that moment was. She took her last handful of flour, her last drops of oil, and baked a small cake. And with her hands probably shaking, She walked back and gave it to Elijah. She gave him her son's last meal. She gave him her own last meal. She gave him everything. That one act of obedience, trusting a crazy promise, was the key that unlocked a miracle. The miracle that happened next wasn't some huge, flashy explosion of food. There wasn't a mountain of flour that suddenly appeared. It was a quiet, daily, nonstop miracle. After Elijah ate, the widow went back to her kitchen. She looked in the jar that had only a tiny bit of flour left, and there was still flour. She picked up the jug that was almost empty, and oil still poured out. It was enough for a meal for her and her son, exactly like Elijah promised. Day after day, for the rest of the famine, for years, the supply never ran out. Every single time she reached for flour, it was there. Every time she needed oil, it was there. This wasn't a one-and-done magic trick. This was God's unlimited supply streaming into her life every day. Her home, which was supposed to be a place of death, became a sanctuary of endless provision. This non-Israelite widow, living in the enemy's backyard, was being fed by the God of Israel, while so many others starved. Her simple choice to trust him provided food every day for herself, her son, and the prophet. Her death sentence got turned into a living testimony of God's insane faithfulness. This story is thousands of years old, but it's a huge lesson for all of us today. First, this is a story about acting despite your fear. The widow was terrified, and she said so. Real faith isn't about not feeling afraid. It's about choosing to act on God's word even when you're scared out of your mind. She chose the promise over her panic. God doesn't ask us to be fearless. He asks us to trust him while we're afraid. Second, God multiplies the little you're willing to give him. A handful of flour and a little oil was basically nothing. But when she put her not enough in God's hands, it became more than enough. We see this all over. A kid gives Jesus his tiny lunch of 5 loaves and 2 fish, and it feeds 5,000 people. Elijah's successor, Elisha, told another widow to take her 1 small jar of oil and just start pouring. It miraculously filled every empty container she could find and saved her sons from being sold into slavery. The lesson is simple. God isn't limited by what you don't have. He's looking for what you're willing to give. Which brings us to the third point. Obedience unlocks the miracle. The promise was there, but the miracle didn't start until she acted. Her obedience to make that first cake for Elijah was the trigger. Sometimes God's plans seem risky or make no logical sense. But trusting and obeying, even when it feels like a gamble, is what puts you in the position to see the miracle happen. So think about it. What is your jar of flour? What's that little bit of oil you're holding on to because you're scared it's not enough? It could be your time, your money, a talent you think is small, or even just your last bit of energy. What would it look like to trust God with it and give it to him first? The story of the Widow of Zarephath is an epic testimony to a God who shows up when we're at our lowest. He's a God of massive abundance who specializes in turning nothing into everything and fear into faith. He didn't come to her when she was comfortable. He met her at her absolute end, when all she had left was a choice. She chose faith, and that choice changed her life forever. The same God who did that for her is with you today. He knows exactly what you're up against, and his promise to provide is just as real now as it was then. If this story of a miraculous comeback got you fired up, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more insane stories of faith. And don't forget to share this message with someone who needs to hear that their empty jar isn't the end of their story.